Can you all make me a co-host? AJ, we talked through email. And so we have everything set up for you. And, we also, I bought water for you to mark it.
Oh, perfect, thank you, I appreciate that.
So we thought we'd put you in here so you can have privacy. You don't have to wear a mask. Here is your headset. It's unmuted. So I will go to my desk and test, but you should be able to just watch the speaker and translate
So,
because you were assigned as a Spanish
right,
translator.
but, my question is, okay, so I'm listening
Uh-huh.
and then I'm voicing,
Right.
and that's it?
Yeah.
I'm not talking to anyone directly?
I don't think so.
I
No,
mean, I'm
you're
not
just
gonna see a
translating.
person or?
Yeah, they're gonna be in a breakout room and you're gonna be with a group of people that have requested Spanish translations. So, but during the main presentation, you'll just be translating in Spanish.
Okay, and, thank you. Okay, and what do I need to do myself? What do I need to do? Just sit here
Yeah,
and
and
unmute?
this is your mute.
Yeah, it's
You
me,
are unmuted right now.
right,
But if you need to turn that off, if you need to mute yourself for whatever reason, your video is off. So, you don't need to have that on.
okay.
I think that's it. And
Yeah.
you can use this, or you don't have to use this. You can take it out, but I thought it might be easier for you.
Yeah.
And this goes like that,
Right.
like on the back, like
Oh,
that.
on the back, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So, and then I will test it from my desk and make sure I
Okay,
can
you wanna
hear
do
it.
that right now? Is that what you're gonna do?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
So, and let me know if you need anything. But my desk is right over here in the corner,
Okay,
so.
waiting. Hi.
Maria, can you talk so we can test the Spanish out?
Okay. Oh, I don't know what you're saying. Okay, hold on. Um, well, I have a question for Sonia.
Okay, sure.
I can't unmute.
Where? I don't see Spanish. Okay, okay. We were trying to figure out why,
Okay, hold on, Sonny.
how you select Spanish, and at the bottom now it says interpretation, so they can select
Is this not
Spanish.
working?
I can
Let me
hear
get the
you,
gloves.
yeah,
The gloves.
okay.
Is it maybe the gloves? I can't get, what am I supposed to do here? Okay, it's not going. Oh, I'm not gonna have,
Hello, can you hear me okay? Okay. He should be. She just asked me if Jock was joining soon. He should be. It's on his schedule, so he should be joining us really soon. Yeah, so I'm waiting for his name to pop up so I can bring us all in first and then everybody else. Ejani, how's your mom?
Thanks, Trish. She's doing pretty good. We're getting some answers. So hopefully we'll know something soon and maybe get her out of the hospital. So, but forgive me about the background. I'm trying to figure out where to be. So we're going to go off camera, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you'll be off camera soon. Yes. Yeah, okay. Just wanted to check in and double check on you and make sure you're doing all right yourself.
Thank you.
And that mom was okay. So good to hear that.
Thanks.
We have about 20 people joining in.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Sounds good. As always, but.
I'm going to go off.
Okay.
This will be great.
Can you let Deborah in? She's in the waiting room. And then Tammy, and there's another interpreter. It'll be Jacques, not Deborah. That's different. She may be an interpreter and joining this event herself, but she's getting CEUs for this, right? So that's why I'm watching out for Jacques. Just text Jacques right now. Just text Jacques right now to let him know. She's a participant. Carrie Clark is a participant. Okay, with the interpreters, you'll keep your video on. So when I'll allow everyone to come into the room, we'll tell them to turn off their cameras and then keep yours on. That way you stay there on the screen. Because if you come off, then I'll have to try to look to find the two of you. So that way the recording will still be there, but you'll have your screen will be right in front of me. So please stay on. Sounds good. Trish, just FYI, I do have a cover for my camera. So when I'm on the off part, I will cover, but not off my camera. So it will look black, but it will still be there. Okay, that's fine. I'll just make sure that I pin both of you. Well, actually whenever you're signing, of course, you'll be pinned. The two of you, so. And then that way you'll be there next to Melissa when she presents, okay. Right. And Melissa will need us to voice for her, or she have an interpreter. Oh, sign, okay, perfect. So we'll sign for Melissa. When she comes up, we'll go ahead and pin the two interpreters to be there. So Melissa will be there, and then the two interpreters will be right there side by side with her and be signing for her. She will have like a background of her PowerPoint, but she will be voicing, and so we will be ASL interpreting for her. 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left. You guys ready? Sorry, just real quickly, I got a question. You just mentioned you're doing pin. I thought that Sonia and I were helping with pinning that. Just wanted to be clear. Did you want to pin them yourself? Say that again. You mentioned that you would handle the pin aspect. Yeah, we'll pin the interpreters when it's time to. I thought we were actually supporting you in that way, but I just wanted to make sure that we don't do the same thing. Trish saying, for my knowledge from the dry run, I would pin the interpreters for Melissa and for whoever else it needs it. But Melissa is, I think, the only one. Then the next one is tomorrow with Elaine. And so Carrie has his own interpreters, so we would pin his interpreter at that point. But other than that, the two of us will be voicing the entire way. Okay. So we'll take care of that. Who is taking care of the breakout rooms? Have you already inputted them into the breakout rooms? Anybody? I can't see anyone right now. Thumbs up from Sonia. Okay. Just wanted to double check you're the one taking care of that. All right, sounds good. I don't have to worry about that part myself. All right, it is now 1 o'clock. Are we ready to go ahead and start this show? Okay, here we go. We're waiting for people to enter the room right now. If you could just bear with us for a minute.
Hi.
It's probably about 2 or 3 more minutes, and then we'll get started with the event today.
Hey, sorry. Oh, let me turn mute.
If everyone could, if you could go ahead and turn your video off by clicking, and also click non-video participants. And also, if you don't mind, muting your microphone as well. Hi, Randy. I do see you, Melissa. Hi, Bethany. I'm gonna give it about another minute or two, making sure everybody's still coming into the room. If any of you are struggling with the hearing the voice interpreter or any Zoom issues, please put those in the chat and don't have those directly sent to me. We have our behind the scenes people who are able to help out with troubleshooting in that. Someone said that they can't hear anything. They're hidden off of Zoom. If you can't hear anything, please make sure that you're joining with audio on. Those of you who are asking for multiple pins, right now, I'll be doing most of the talking. So we'll have the interpreters for our guest speakers, and I will pin the interpreters to make sure that they're on screen with the speakers. So just bear with us for just a minute. Also, if you need Spanish or English interpreting, if you look at the bottom of the screen, there is interpretation. If you can click on Spanish or English, you're able to do that. We'll go ahead and get started. Just 1 second here. Can everyone see me all right? I can't see anyone right now. So it does feel a little odd. Okay, for those of you trying to hear, if you could click join audio on your screen. There you go. We'll go ahead and get started. Hello, welcome everyone. I'm happy that you're here with us. Before we get started, again, if you can mute your mics and turn off your video, and if you can click hide non-video participants, it'll help us to run a little bit more efficiently here in Zoom. Sorry, had to move my phone out of the way here. I'm very excited to get started with this. This has been a very unique and interesting experience and events with so many different accommodations. So if you could just bear with us as we go through this afternoon and making sure that everyone has access to this event. We do have CART. So if you'd like access to CART, you can click on the bottom of your screen to receive the captioning. All right, here, don't want to miss anything. If you have any issues with Zoom or the audio, anything of that sort, please put that into the chat box and explain your issue, and somebody behind the scenes will be able to help you out with that. I also want to let you all know and caution you that this event will be recorded the entire way, except for the breakout sessions. And the reason why we're recording this event is so that we can put it onto Canvas. There may be somebody who has missed part of the session. They're able to access it through Canvas. So we will be recording this event. just so you all know. All right. Now that the housekeeping is out of the way, I would like to welcome you all to our first Texas Mental Health Symposium for deaf and deafblind youth. I am Trish Grooms, and I'm thrilled to be your host today. I do want to take a moment. Sorry, I've got quite a few people still joining into the room real quick. I do want to take a moment to really thank our sponsors for this event and making this event possible. Region 11 Educational Service Center, TEA, Region 13 Educational Service Center, TSBBI, and SOC, Statewide Outreach Center. And those are our sponsors for these events. So I do want to thank those sponsors for making sure that this event was possible. I also would like to thank our planning committee. Since the pandemic started last year, we had already started planning before the pandemic hit. So we've actually been planning this event for almost 2 years. And finally, it's here. With the pandemic, we had to cancel the original symposium, hoping in the fall that we would be able to have it. We're not able to do so. And now it's been fully virtual for the symposium. It's been an interesting process. We hit a lot of snags along the way, but we persevered, and here we are, we've made it. The committee, I really want to thank you for rolling up your sleeves, diving in to help and make sure that this is happening. Elaine Young, Ejani, Bella, Lee Godbold, who's not here today. She had a baby, so she's on maternity leave right now. We missed her quite a bit. And myself. So the four of us are the original committee. And in the last 4 months, we have brought on Alan Morton, Donna Valverde Hummel, Sonia Bridges, Brian Sobek. And they really rolled up their sleeves on the technical aspect of everything and registration. So I really want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for your help and your willingness to make this happen. Thank you. Now we're very honored and thrilled to introduce our opening keynote speaker, Dr. Melissa Anderson. Let me go ahead and give you a brief bio. Melissa is a Gallaudet-trained psychologist and clinical researcher who strives to provide access in behavioral health in the deaf community. Melissa is a co-chair of stakeholder engagement program in the UMass School, Implementation of Science, Practices, and Research Center. She is also the director of Deaf Empowerment and Recovery. Her career within the deaf community has only been successful because of her engagement and actions of her work. Her clinical team serves as a research study and are co-led by deaf professionals and laypersons, ensuring that that work is very relevant and accessible. In addition to community co-leadership model, Melissa and her team continue to infuse the voices of deaf community members in their work via ongoing qualitative interviews, focus groups, and community forums. please welcome Dr. Melissa Anderson. Now I got to look for her screen so that I can pin her. So just a minute with me if you can bear with me. There's Melissa. Okay, perfect. Now I see you. Let me make sure I can pin the interpreters really quick. And we're going to go ahead and take this opportunity to switch interpreters.
Okay, let me adjust this from myself. Okay, the floor is yours. We are ready to go.
Just checking before I go. Can everyone see me in front of my slides?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you so much, Trish, for the lovely introduction. And it's funny that you talk about the planning journey of the past couple of years. I remember the beginning of April last year thinking, oh, I'm not going to cancel my flight yet. We'll wait it out. This might pass in a couple of weeks. And here we are a year later, still figuring out how to live in pandemic times. So really amazing job to the planning committee for making this happen despite pretty intense challenges. So today I am honored to be here with all of you talking about the field of deaf mental health care. And I'm going to be highlighting some of the achievements of the past 10 years, really exciting initiatives that have been happening, and also making some suggestions about where I think the field is going and should go in the future. So before I jump in, you might be wondering, like, who is this lady and why is she here? So I'll give you a little bit of background about myself. I'm hearing, as you might have guessed already, but I was fortunate to do my graduate training at Gallaudet University, which many of you probably know is a university for deaf and hard of hearing students, and then also some other hearing students who are fluent in American Sign Language. So I was very fortunate to learn how to practice psychology through Gallaudet and the community there. For the past 10 years, I have been at UMass in Worcester, Massachusetts, where I've been able to provide therapy to a variety of deaf clients, working on trauma, addiction, depression, and other concerns. And so a lot of my work has been informed by the expertise and experiences of my clients. And then the past 7 years, I've also been doing research on how to adapt evidence-based therapies to be more deaf-friendly. Or in other words, really investigating, like, what are the best practices to make therapy more accessible to deaf people who use sign language. So that is who I am and why I'm here, but you can always feel free to reach out and ask me more. So for our agenda today, as I mentioned before, we're going to be talking about some important achievements or gains that have happened in the past 10 years. Really 3 major ones. So documentation of health and mental health disparities, targeting the causes of these disparities, and then developing treatments to hopefully help those disparities go away over time. Then we're going to talk about some next steps. And then my goal is to leave at least 15 minutes at the end for some question, answer, discussion, that type of thing. So before I jump into the agenda, first I'm going to take a sip of my water here. And then I want to make sure that we are on the same page about what I mean when I say the word deaf. So today when I'm referring to deaf people, the deaf community, what I mean to refer to is about 500,000 or more people in the US who have significant hearing loss and communicate primarily through American Sign Language. This community group, often the individuals in this community are deaf from birth or within the first few years after birth. That's not always the case, but often people who identify themselves as culturally deaf are deaf from an early age. And I'm really emphasizing the community of deaf people who identify as culturally deaf versus the medical definition of deafness or hearing loss. And what I mean by that is that these individuals may not identify as being part of a disability group. Rather, they are more focused on what they do have. So they have art and literature, history, culture, language, shared experience, versus focusing on what they don't have, which is, the loss of hearing or limited hearing. And so when I talk today about the deaf community, that's really what I mean. Okay. So we're going to start by talking about health disparities related to the mental health field. So within the past 10 years, a number of researchers, both in the US and internationally, have started to provide some strong documentation that deaf people and deaf adults and deaf children are more likely to experience mental health concerns than the general population, or hearing adults and hearing children. And so, for example, some research has found that deaf people are twice as likely to report mood or anxiety disorders. So, for example, depression, generalized anxiety, panic, those sorts of disorders. Deaf people are 3 times as likely to be problem drinkers than individuals with no hearing loss, and twice as likely to experience trauma exposure compared to the general population. And I recognize that, this might not seem like an exciting development in the field of deaf mental health, not something to call a gain. But I want to emphasize how important it is that we finally have these numbers and these statistics documented and published, because so often resources, funds, services are directed to the groups that can prove that there's a problem. And so what has been really important in the past 10, 20 years about documenting this problem is that now we finally have the proof to, submit grant proposals, submit proposals for resources to our states, to the federal government, to say, we have a problem. Look at these numbers. We have a problem and we need your funds, your money to really help this go away over time. So I recognize that the numbers are a little disheartening, but the fact that they're finally documented means that we can do something about it. Okay. So now moving on to targeting causes of these mental health disparities or inequities. And I apologize if you can hear my neighbor's dog howling, but there's nothing I can do about it. So hopefully she'll stop. This is the beauty of working from home. So in the past 10 years, there's been a really monumental study published, and a lot has come out of this. You may have heard about this before, but just in case you haven't, I want to give you some background. So it's called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, or a lot of people call it the ACEs study. And this was a really large study conducted in Southern California by the Centers for Disease Control, and Kaiser Permanente. And they surveyed 17,000 people, which is a really huge number of people to have in a research study. They surveyed them about their childhood experiences, and then they gave them health checkups and followed their health records over time. And so they really wanted to know, what is the relationship between our childhood experiences and our later health and well-being as adults? And so what they found is that adverse childhood experiences, so potentially traumatic events that can occur between 0 and 17. Some examples would be abuse, neglect. It could also be poverty, parental divorce, just any event that can happen in childhood that might cause the child a lot of stress. So these are common. You know, that's probably not a shock to anyone here, but they found that 61% of people reported that they had at least one potentially traumatic, stressful event that happened to them as a child. 20% of people, so 1 out of 5 people, reported that they had experienced 3 or more of these stressful events during their childhood. And what these researchers were able to identify is that having these stressful experiences in childhood was directly related to adulthood chronic health problems, so like heart health, obesity, mental health problems in adulthood, and increased substance use. And the people who had 4, 5, 6, 7 adverse childhood experiences were much more likely to experience these kinds of problems than people with 1 stressful experience. So they basically found that it was, we call it dose dependent. So the more stressful experiences someone had in their childhood, the more likely they were to have health problems, mental health problems, and addiction problems in adulthood. And this was a really important study because it finally showed that obviously mental health and physical health are related, and whatever we can do to really nurture the development of our children will help promote the overall health of our nation over time. And I just wanted to show this one image that the ACEs study published. And they basically say that, you know, we have this foundation of historical trauma in society, which I think is pretty apparent right now with everything that's going on with the George Floyd trial. This trauma sets up different social conditions like poverty, access to education, These social conditions can make some people more likely to experience adverse childhood experiences. Once people experience those stressors or traumas, their neurodevelopment or their brain development might be impacted, which then might impact their social, emotional, and cognitive development. They might be, because of that, more likely to engage in different health risk behaviors, drinking, smoking, risky behavior causes disease. And what they're finding is the people who report more adverse childhood experiences actually, on average, die earlier than people with no or fewer adverse childhood experiences. And so this was a huge finding, because it really emphasizes that we need to be doing a much better job of, as a society, of how we nurture and raise our children. So in no way is this meant to be parent shaming. This is really talking about how our country is set up to raise children to be healthy and well. So that giant 17,000 person study was done with the general population, not with deaf people specifically in mind. And to date, no one has published a study doing ACE's work within the deaf community. But there are some things that we do know about attachment and other early experiences in the deaf community that I wanted to share with you that I think are relevant. So the first, caregiver attachment. So some research has been done to show that regardless of what communication mode parents of deaf children choose to use with their deaf child, the most important factor in the health of their attachment or their relationship is how well the parent supported their child's emotional needs. Other important factors in healthy attachment are parental stress. So parents who are more stressed have a harder time relating to their children in healthy ways. So we need to be thinking about interventions to help parents with their stress levels. So caregiver attachment is an important thing to think about when we think about the early life experiences of deaf children. Also important to think about communication access in home, school, and medical settings. And again, this is not a commentary or criticism on whatever communication modes you choose to use with your child, but the key is that there is access. So does the child feel a sense of belonging with their family, with their school setting? Do they feel like they can be a participant in conversations, or do they feel isolated and left out? And that's really the core of it. And what we hear, at least what I hear from some of my clients who grew up in families where communication was not great, is this concept called the dinner table syndrome, where the deaf person sits at the table with hearing family members and everyone's just talking around them, and they unfortunately don't know what's going on and feel quite left out. So it's really about inclusion and access more than any particular communication choice. We also know that some deaf people report punishment or bullying related to communication. So I would like to think and hope that this is more a thing of the past than current, but there were many schools that used to punish deaf children physically. If they used sign language, they would be wrapped with a ruler or some other physical punishment. And there are stories that children tell of their peers, both deaf and hearing, bullying them for their speech skills or their sign skills. They're not hearing enough, but they're also not deaf enough. And so that's definitely a theme when we think about these adverse childhood experiences. A fourth topic that I want to hit on, and I'm going to spend some more time here, is language deprivation. And this may or may not be a term that you're familiar with, so I'll take some time to explain. So if you didn't know already, it's estimated that 90 to 95% of deaf children are born into hearing families. If we think about a hearing baby who's born to a hearing person. So for example, I have a 5-month-old. So let's use my 5-month-old as an example. He's hearing, I'm hearing. So he was born 5 months ago. And from the moment he was born, he heard me talking to him. He heard me talking to my husband. He heard my husband talking. It's just natural exposure to language that he can access. And so even though he's only 5 months old, he's obviously not talking yet. I don't know that he can understand us, but he's exposed to all this language in his environment totally naturally. We don't have to think about it. It just happens. For deaf children born into hearing families, it's not that natural. So more thought, attention, and choice needs to be put into how the deaf child can access language. For some families, that might mean the parents choose to learn sign language. For other families, if the child benefits from a hearing aid or some sort of other device, maybe it means spoken English or some other choice. It's all about whether that exposure is fully accessible to the child. So it's not an easy thing to do. And I don't think parents always receive all the information that they need to make these choices. So because of that, many deaf kids born into hearing families might not get full access to language until school age or even later. And when we think about, my baby who's getting this full exposure to language all the time, compared to someone who might not get full language exposure till 5 years old, that has some impacts. It can delay language development. It can delay thinking skills, social skills, and the child's ability to regulate or manage their emotions. And so on the next slide, I actually have a video, but I believe someone from the team here was going to play it for me. So I hope that person is here. Okay, great. So someone's going to play it for me. Just let me know if I need to do anything like stop share or anything like that. Okay, so let me just get back to where I was. And I saw in the chat box that folks were concerned about the sound. So actually there's no information that happens in the sound. There's just background music. The whole thing is presented visually. And if you didn't get a chance to watch it because you were trying to figure out the sound, I will absolutely, I'm writing a note to myself to put the video link in the chat box so you can watch it again later, because I do think it's an important video. It basically shows the trajectory of someone who has access from language to language from birth compared to someone who doesn't, and how that can impact their ability to communicate, think, develop healthy emotions, etc. So I'll absolutely share that video link in the chat box once I'm done blabbering. Okay. So luckily, now that I've just highlighted all the problems and the causes of these problems, luckily in the past 10 years, people have also been working to address these issues, to solve the cause of these inequities in mental health. And I'm going to review some of those efforts now so that you have a sense of what resources might become available quite soon. So just like a little language check so that we're on the same page. So there's this phrase that people throw around, evidence-based practices or evidence-based therapies. And this, just in case you haven't come across this before, or you did and you weren't sure what it meant, this means that it's a therapy or other intervention that has gone through a formal research process through clinical trials and found to lead to a positive outcome in a population. So this would be the same for a therapy or a new medication, or I'll use a recent example, a vaccine. So in the recent development of the COVID-19 vaccines, there were research studies done where human participants were randomly assigned to either receive the vaccination or receive like a fake vaccination, we call it placebo. And then after that happened, they compared the rates of COVID illness in both groups. And thankfully, what they found is that in the group of people who were randomly assigned to get the new vaccine, the rates of COVID illness were much lower than in the group who got the fake or the placebo vaccine. And so we use the same process when we're talking about therapy and counseling and how to research new therapies and prove that they work. So I don't know if you've come across this alphabet soup, but there are therapies that have been proven to work, like cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavior therapy, motivational interviewing, and so on and so on. There's a lot of these ABCs around. But my question, and you can just throw your answer quickly in the chat box. What do you think? How many evidence-based therapies have been developed for and evaluated through clinical trials with deaf people? None. Let's see. Probably none. 0. Haha, none. You guys are too good. So you're correct. There are currently no officially evidence-based therapies for deaf people. There are some in the works that are going through the beginning stages of clinical trials, but this field is relatively young. People have only been doing research on this topic, on how to develop these therapies in the deaf community for like the past 10, 20 years. And unfortunately, research takes a really long time. But I'm going to tell you about some of these opportunities. And actually, I'm going to just jump ahead a couple slides to make sure I have time for the important stuff. So one recent effort that I want to highlight is around what's called parent-child interaction therapy. And this therapy was actually developed in the 1970s for hearing children between the ages of 2 and 7. And it was developed to help families who had children with disruptive behavior or emotional problems. And over the past, the past 50 years, there have been multiple clinical trials of this type of therapy. And they found proof that it helps improve parent-child relationships and how much children cooperate or listen to their parents. So it really reduces negative child behavior and parents being harsh disciplinarians. And it creates, they call it an upward spiral of parents being more consistent and validating and approving and more positive child responses. And what's promising is that PCIT, parent-child interaction therapy, has already been adapted for a lot of different populations who are not the general hearing population. So what's really exciting is that in 2014, Gallaudet University established the PCIT clinic within the Department of Psychology. It's run by Dr. Lori Day, Loriday. And they provide PCIT to families in the Washington, D.C. area, any family that has a deaf family member. And they followed a cultural adaptation process to make sure that the treatment is visually accessible, accessible in terms of language, and culturally consistent with deaf cultural values. And what's especially exciting is that they've already had the chance to do a pilot research study where they looked at 20 different families. And after they provided this therapy, they saw that parents' skills in how to interact with their deaf children improved significantly. The intensity of the child's behavior problem reduced. And the children, by the end of the therapy, were much more cooperative and compliant with their parents than they had been at the beginning. So really exciting initial results. It's not yet, a full clinical trial like the vaccine trials I was talking about, but it's on its way to getting there soon. What's also great is that they're looking at the data that they collected, and they're finding that not only does PCIT improve child's behavior and the parent's skills, but they're also finding that it's really positive for the child's language development. So the hope here is that the more that this PCIT work develops and hopefully becomes accessible across the country, we're really addressing those adverse childhood experiences that we talked about before, so that we're stopping mental health concerns before they even start. Okay, so I'm also just going to quickly touch on some work that's being done to develop therapies for deaf adults who have developed mental health problems. I'm just going to go through them quickly because I do feel like the audience here is more focused on youth and family interventions. But it's worth a mention that really in the US, the pioneering work on adapting therapies to be more deaf friendly happened around the treatment called dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT. And that work was done at the Deaf Wellness Center in Rochester, where they made filmed teaching stories with deaf actors to help teach different concepts from that therapy. Some other work was done by Neil Glickman, also in Massachusetts, and his partners at Partners, P-A-H. Yeah. So they are in Pennsylvania, and they work together on adapting cognitive behavioral therapy for deaf clients. And the culmination of their work was a manual to really teach staff and clinicians how to better work with deaf people. Seeking safety and signs of safety is actually my work, my research. So a little pat on the back to myself here, which feels a little awkward. But seeking safety is a treatment for trauma and addiction. And so my team has worked to make a deaf-friendly adaptation toolkit. So different videos, visual handouts, to make that more accessible to deaf people. And we are testing it in a small clinical trial right now. So if we get positive results, it could be one of the first evidence-based therapies for deaf people. And then there have been a number of international efforts around adapting therapies. So in Australia, there are groups looking at DBT, but also constructionist therapy. In Spain, they're trying to adapt something called solution-focused therapy. And there are other efforts going on in Iran and the Netherlands. And even though these are just initial steps in the research process, they are very important first steps because they are the foundation for everything that is to come. And so I do predict that in the next 10 years, we will see multiple evidence-based therapies become available for deaf people with mental health conditions. Okay. So a few minutes on next steps. So like I said, we need to get it together and conduct more clinical trials so that we can prove that these approaches that we're adapting to help deaf people are safe and that they actually work. Once we have these evidence-based tools, it's really important that we make them openly accessible to the public. So this is not a business model. This is not a money maker. We need to make sure that these tools become available to anyone who needs them free of charge. And we also need to make sure that once we have these evidence-based tools that we're taking the time and energy to train clinicians how to use them well. I apologize. I have some green screen issues going on. My cat is trying to eat it, so hopefully it will not topple over on me. But really, now that the pandemic has happened and really the mental health field in general has finally embraced telehealth, we need to take advantage of that and be training deaf accessible clinicians nationwide in how to use these tools. We need to be training them via Zoom, and we need to be supporting them to provide telehealth to our clients who might not be able to make it in person. To do this, I feel like it's going to be really important to have strong collaborations with nationwide practices. So one example that I'll throw out there is called National Deaf Therapy. And so that's a telehealth practice for deaf clients that has therapists in many states. So I foresee some of the future of this work happening through collaborations with that group and with other similar groups where we're training their therapists in these evidence-based practices. And I think not that it's too late to capture people once they're already therapists, but we can also capture people early in their training. So partnering with Gallaudet University or other universities and training their students in these important approaches before they graduate. The other problem is that we just don't have enough people doing research. We don't have enough people to do the work. It seems that there's actually funding available to do this research, but we just don't have the people to do it. And so we need to invest in our researcher pipeline. So partnering with Gallaudet and other universities with deaf programs to recruit people into the therapy research field. Once we've recruited them, then we need to do things like invest in their training, in postdoctoral fellowships or other opportunities where they receive good mentorship in how to become a researcher. And then if they are able to become faculty, mentoring those individuals too, so that they're retained in the field. That's the biggest problem. We don't have the research workforce to be doing this work. And so we need to really be investing in the future of the field. So with that, oh, good, I did well on time. So I want to leave time for questions and answers. There's my little question guy. But I actually will stop sharing so I can just be done with the PowerPoint. Oh, sorry, I screwed it all up for Trish. I think Trish is just gonna pin me again.
Just a moment, and we will switch interpreters. One moment.
Okay, perfect. So we do have one question. Let me try to get that up here. A question was from asking about the PCIT, if those studies were done with any Spanish-speaking families. Any of those studies done with any Spanish-speaking families?
That is a really good question. And I actually don't know the answer, but I will look in the chat box, let's see, for who wrote it. And I'll actually respond to you with the contact information for—
It was Angela Sanchez.
Okay. So Angela, I'm going to respond to you.
Okay. The next question, can you tell us more about how you were sharing your webcam directly on the PowerPoint? Okay. All right, new technology thing here. Okay. One of our tech people actually can add that information in there for you. Can you repeat what the acronym PCIT stands for, please?
Absolutely. So PCIT stands for Parent-Child Interaction Therapy. So it's all about coaching the parent and the child to better communicate, better how the parent can better validate or reinforce the child's positive behaviors instead of using harsh discipline.
Okay, next question. What efforts are being made to have therapists who are fluent in sign language approved through Medicaid? we are finding that there's a big issue in finding therapists, and they find it, but we can't use them because of Medicaid. That is a big problem.
So here in Massachusetts, we are pretty fortunate that we have an ombudsman program, and they will, so it's a deaf ombudsman program, and they actually help sign fluent therapists become approved by or paneled on different insurance companies, including Medicaid and other public insurance options. So the fact that these therapists use sign language actually like really helps them get on the insurance panels. And it sounds like in Texas, there isn't a similar mechanism.
No, right. Yeah, that is a problem here in Texas. So that's one of the issues. Next question. Does National Deaf Therapy serve children as well? I actually can answer that one. So we actually recently started a connection with them. Now, it's not very young children as of yet, but high school age. There are some for middle school, and depending upon their needs and who they're able to mesh well with a therapist. As far as a therapist having some experience with children, then yes, that's possible. We are still in the works and the process of trying to get more therapists for children. So we're still somewhat limited there, but it is coming. Okay, let me see. Next question. In addition to Angela's Sanchez's question, this was from Ashley Woods asking, does the study include multilingual families? And that was her question in addition to the Spanish speaking question.
So I will also respond to you with direct contact information for Dr. Lori Day, so that it's her work, so she's the expert and can answer that. I know not all of the families exclusively used American Sign Language. So there may have been a mix of some spoken language and American Sign Language, but she can really provide you the information. And actually also there was a paper published about her studies. So I'll include a link to that publication.
Okay, great. Next question. Are there any studies that you can share specifics of mental health or therapy with deaf adolescents that do have language deprivation?
It's a really good question. I don't think there have been intervention studies published on working with children, adolescents, or even adults with language deprivation. I would say in the past 5 years is when I started seeing more professional publications just about what is language deprivation. But I haven't seen it get to the stage of talking about therapy interventions with that group yet.
Okay. Next question. Does National Deaf Therapists contract with school districts in providing therapy to students? Good question. You'll need to reach out to them and ask them directly. At this time, I don't believe so, but they do contract with EAP and HR school districts. But for children directly, I don't know as of yet. But that is a good question. Next question. A comment saying, Dr. Hill Clemens' work suggests language deprivation and mental health needs of deaf individuals. Yes, but as far as studies in relation to that, so I've seen that book. It's a very, very good book with that. why is there so little studies and just general basic needs that are provided for the deaf community? That's the very last question.
Sorry, took a big breath there. So first, getting research funding is not the easiest thing I've ever done. So just an example, I mentioned that right now I'm doing a small, they call it a pilot clinical trial. It's not the real deal yet. It's the small one before the real deal. I submitted the grant 4 times. It took 3 years to get the funding to do the study. So the funding does exist, but it's not necessarily easy to get. And so I think we need to be training people and mentoring them to be able to do it and to be able to do it and not give up. Because I see a lot of people who are passionate about doing this work, who really care about the issues, and who become very discouraged or burnt out because it is challenging. It is challenging. And I'll say that in the past presidential administration, things got a little scary when it seemed like funding to the National Institutes of Health might get cut, because that's where our research money comes from. So it did get scary for a bit about, like, will we be able to even continue this work? So I think the more we can invest in growing the researchers, the more we will see. But it's not the easiest job I've ever had, but I do love it. So if we can get more passionate people and support them to stick with it, I think we can really do a lot of good.
And there's one question that says, National Deaf Therapy, I like the idea, but how does that work with state licenses? So good question. They do have different therapists from a variety of states with different licensures, and they are contracted with National Deaf Therapy. Is that correct? Yeah. So that's, from my understanding, is how they're able to connect and work with the different states. So there's more exposure, more access to people virtually.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we are knowing. Go ahead, Nad.
And also they have a number of therapists who are licensed in a couple states. So this is often this happens a lot in like New England, where we get someone who's licensed in Massachusetts and Connecticut and Rhode Island, because they're all really small and close together. But I think they have a good number of therapists who hold active licenses in 2 or 3 states. And so they're able to provide more access that way as well.
Let's see. Okay. Next question. How do you suggest that we support and advocate for more research? Are there specific contacts that we need to make?
So this is a really good question, one that's not been posed to me before. But every 5 years, NIH, so the National Institutes of Health, all the different institutes that make up NIH, every 5 years, they come up with a new strategic plan for the following 5 years. And in that strategic plan, they set their priorities for what they want to fund. And so their funding decisions, their decisions on what projects to fund, are usually aligned with that strategic plan. Before the strategic plans are written, they hold an online open call for information or requests. And so what I would say is that if you're passionate about this area and want to advocate and lobby for more funding for deaf mental health, I would get on the listserv for the institute called NIMH. So it's the National Institute on Mental Health. And so you'd want to be looking for, they want information for their strategic plan and then just like throw it in there so that they can't ignore it. You know, that could be something that Trish or other folks could send out to everyone and say, get on this. The other institute where we've received funding is it's NIDCD, the National Institute on Deafness and Other Communication Disorders. It's not the best name, but they have funded some of our research about how to like train healthcare providers, how to better interact with deaf people. So I would target those two institutes and look for when it's coming up to their time to renew their strategic plan, and send that around and get everyone to harass them so that they can't ignore it. And if it ends up in the strategic plan, it's much more likely that anyone doing this work will have it funded. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Good strategy. One last question. Do you know of any studies that are specifically for those who are deafblind?
I don't, and I'm sad to say that I don't. And I think especially during the pandemic and thinking how we had to take our clinical trial that was totally in person and make it a Zoom clinical trial, the barriers for deafblind participants joining our trial have only increased. So I think, you know, if I could go back and redo my slides, I think one of the future areas for the next 10 years needs to be focused on how to provide access to deaf-blind mental health consumers.
Okay. It's now 2:15. If there are no other questions that I don't see any more. I just want to thank you so much for being here. I'm happy you were here to give this presentation to us, and I really greatly appreciate you being here for us. So thank you very much, and I hope you're able to stay with us for the rest of the afternoon just to see how the symposium is going.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Let's moving forward. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop video for the interpreters, and then you'll be voicing for the next portion of this event.
We'll switch interpreters. Okay, all right. Can everyone see me okay? We good? Okay, so the next part of today's event is a family story that I'm going to share with you guys. But first, before I proceed with the story, it is the story of a family's journey. And I want to make sure that you are all aware that this story is heavy, it's raw, and it's very emotional. It's about a mother's testimony about her son's long journey with trauma and mental health impacts from the day he was born until now. Just, I want to caution you guys, this could become a trigger for you all. Many of us have experiences with mental health issues, whether it's personal or whether it's family uh, doing their work. So, that being said, it is important that you give yourself permission to take care of yourselves during this story. Okay? I just want to caution you guys before I go into the story. Whenever I spoke with his mother, we had a conversation over 2 hours, and it's very heart wrenching. And yes, I've experienced struggles, uh, with accessibility to mental health services throughout my work, and even on a personal level for my own children within themselves. There's mental health limits either way, and so that I'm aware of. But her story is just it's just overwhelming. Wow. I can't imagine the level of strength that she had to have to persevere to what she had to persevere. Also, her family as well. So, within our 2 hour conversation, we're going to summarize it into 30 minutes. I wish I could, but I also can't even convey how she shared her story. It's not going to be the same, but I'll try the best I can. So, when her son was born, he had charge syndrome. He's also deaf, and there's many other health issues as well. In his little tiny life, within the first couple years, he had over 15 to 20 surgeries. His two older brothers are the age of 12 and 10, and they really wanted to meet him, but they could not. They couldn't even see their newborn brother for several months. That child was in the NICU, and he was not allowed to be touched. Can you imagine a baby that cannot be touched, that cannot be held, that cannot be hugged? That in of itself is very traumatic. Not only for the baby, but also for the family too. And the father was a youth pastor. He was very heavily involved with this church, and still it was kind of a new job with him and new family. And the mom had to get a nurse in order to come into their home when the baby was around 5 months old. And, she often lived the role as a single mother because she was so focused on her child with, many health issues for several years. By the time he was in elementary age, he had started to show some progress. There was some communication. He was learning new skills. And in the meantime, the mother had another baby. It was a boy, and he was also diagnosed with charge. And the baby was deaf blind as well. And so it was a double situation that she had to deal with both children. However, when the first of the two was 7 years old, one day at school, something happened and his behavior completely changed. And it was to the point where his face had a glazed look about him. He was defecating himself, and he regressed in his communication skills. And mom knew something had happened, something occurred in that school. She knew that something was wrong. So she called and got the police involved, forensics. They did inspections, and they discovered that that child was sodomized by an adult. And then from that time going forward until 12 years of age, the mom could not find any mental health services or providers to get help for him because of his own needs, because of communication, charge, and all these different things. They just couldn't find anyone. From the age of 7 until the age of 12, they were searching and searching and searching. During that time, the mom experienced a lot of abuse from her son. His attacks were very feral, and often he was out of control. He would hit his head on the wall and a whole variety of other hits. The mother shared at that time that her son was not teachable. Can you imagine that? You can't teach your child anything because he was so violent and out of control. You couldn't teach him anything in that particular moment in time. The mother also mentioned to a mental health deputy or officers were frequently called to come in for her and his safety. The frustration level just exceeded hope. And the officers were not sensitive to the mother or the son's needs, and they couldn't really understand. Also, they didn't have the training or the ability to um, to help with people who have special needs. The mother herself often had to be educated first, and she would have to a different person would come in and she'd have to educate them over and over again about her son and how to deal with him. And I'm sure many of us have those same problems. The mother was so frustrated with Texas resources. Where were they? So she started to search outside of the state of Texas and found a place called, let me get this right, the Cathedral of Hope. And that was a residential treatment center that could teach life skills and give their patients purpose. And also work in the community, such as at a farm, planting, working out in nature. They would actually work at the Cathedral of Hope. And also, they had accessibility to the deaf. And the mother was thrilled. The son was 16 at that point in time. And then they went. The mother said, at that particular time, he was finally able to express about his abuse from when he was 7 years old. He finally talked about it. It was there at that residential treatment program. He was there for about 5 months. And the mother had to get an advocate in order to receive some more help with the payments of services and also to justify the need for his services to get those services. The school refused to pay for it. Texas, of course, didn't have the funds to assist with paying for a lifetime of services. And when that had happened, the mother had to go pick him up within 24 hours from the residential treatment program, and they said, "I'm so sorry." So she went and picked him up, and then two things happened. She ended up with a bill of $70,000. $70,000 for those 5 months of treatment services. And then when he arrived at home, he became very upset. I mean, I could see why. And at that time, he was older, but he was very brutal to his father. It was a very dark time for the family. The mother had grieved because, with the deaf accessibility that was available at the Cathedral of Hope, and that was not going to be in place anymore. The mother at that time became suicidal and had suicidal thoughts, but she still had another son to take care of, and she also had a new baby. And so during that time, her son was placed into a psychiatric hospital 10 times in 1 year. So again, 10 times in 1 year. There's a lack of services. He was sent, then he would be sent back home, and he would go back and forth and back and forth. And then due to the level of abuse that he showed to his father, the father lost his job. He was released from his occupation. And that was about in 2018. And the time I spoke with the mom, it was early last year, 2020, right before the pandemic. And at that point in time, he still had no work. And so the mother was receiving therapy for herself. However, she did not have a good experience with the therapist, with the counselor. In the beginning, she felt that she was being held hostage. That therapist basically made the mother responsible for all the things that had happened in her life. It was her responsibility that had happened, according to the therapist. And then during that time, the mom also found that she had lupus. It was a big impact on the family. It hit them really hard. Her two oldest sons often worried about their mother and the family. While they were trying to live their own lives, they still felt the need to protect their mother. And the mom could not take care of her son, and he had to be placed in a group home. Unfortunately, that group home was not accessible to the deaf, but they had no choice. And then, within 2 or 3 months later, the mother took him out of the group home. Her son was exposed to porn by the staff and was starved. He lost so much weight he couldn't even sit down properly. And also, that group home did not follow up with his psychiatric needs. They made mistakes with his medication. The mother shared that they shared that insanity was just happening over and over again, and when would it stop? And the mother also had mentioned that there was a point in time under HCS, waiver of services, that family had 6 different case managers in an 8-month time span. There's a high turnover rate in that particular department of services. So that's pretty much the story in summary of some of her experiences and her journey. At the end of the interview with the mom, it was she shared such a very powerful message that was heart touching, and she told herself often, it was the phrase, oh, people say, just come on, move on, just move on. But she said that statement, other people often would tell her that, just move on, just move on. But then she realized, no, no, no. It needs to be changed and adapted for herself. Let's move forward. We will switch interpreters. One moment.
Meaning, let's take it one step at a time and continue to move forward, to keep moving. That move on? No, let's keep moving forward. Now, that mentality was actually the empowerment of healing for her. That's how she was able to get through her daily life. That's how she got through her darkest moments. And in the end, she said she was still hopeful. And she told me that she was able to find a special needs ministry called SOAR in Missouri, which had deaf services. At that time, she was planning to move there. I mean, just wow. Very heart-wrenching. If you had been there I think all of us would have had a good cry afterwards. And thinking about all the trauma and re-trauma that happened over and over again for both the son and the family. Think about those two older sons that were normal and how they perceived and witnessed the violence that happened. They were normal, so to say, but maybe internally their mental health may not have been intact that way. Think about the son, his life experience in general. Will he ever have a chance to live a life with purpose? Will he have a chance to heal? He had a chance, but yet that was taken from him. So just thinking about all of these different things that happened to this family. And there are many other families with similar stories. And it's very hard to digest sometimes when we know what is needed, but it's not available. Now, this story was not meant to inspire anyone, but to motivate you to roll up those sleeves and speak up. Work together. Do something about this. Like Melissa Anderson mentioned and shared, we may have to harass them for more research. And at the same time, make sure we can get services for our youth, both deaf and deafblind. We have way too many kids with these needs that have no access in getting the help. There's too many out there, and we need to do something. I take a breath here. So that was that story. Now, before we go on break, I do want you all to know that with this information, try to digest that a little bit for yourself. During our breakout sessions, when we come back, I'll have 3 questions up for you, which are a snapshot for you to remember those questions during break. We'll have an opportunity for you to introduce yourself in those groups. And this is about knowing each other, but at the same time, having the opportunity to discuss your experiences. When we return from the breakout, please list your responses in the chat and share those with us. Now, the breakout is going to be at about an hour. So when you do come back, we will be putting everybody into breakout rooms. So make sure you take a little picture of those 3 questions on the screen, but if you can remember them, that's fine as well. So we'll go ahead and take the opportunity. Oh, wow. I feel like this has gone by pretty quick. My story was not 30 minutes long. Okay. So we'll give you about 15-minute break and come back at 2:50. I'm sorry. Yes, 2:50. And then we'll have a little discussion before we go into the breakout sessions, okay? Enjoy your break. We'll see you soon at 2:50. Okay, hope everyone's back from their break. I can't see anyone, so hopefully everyone is back from their break. Hopefully you got yourself an opportunity to get some water, get a bathroom break for the rest of the afternoon. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the questions. And so I will share screen just for your information. Either write them down, take a picture of them, or if you can remember those for your group to discuss. Before I do that, I just want to ask for your patience as we get everyone into the breakout rooms. For the breakout session, we just want to make sure that all the interpreters are going to be in the right place, CART people are in the right place, and Spanish interpreters are in the right place. So we want to make sure that you just have a little patience with us. We'll take a few extra minutes, and that'll help us get this situated. But the 3 questions to discuss within your group in the breakout session, and then you'll have that discussion. You'll come back into the large group and type your responses in the chat. Give me a few minutes to review your responses, and we'll share with the groups. And then we will wrap up for today, okay? Let me go ahead and share my questions really quick. So these are those 3 questions. If you can introduce yourself, your name, where you're from, your profession, whatever you feel comfortable sharing. Why are you here? And what do you hope to gain from being here? We may not be able to meet what you're here for, but it is our first annual mental health symposium. So we may not be able to cover everything today and tomorrow. But this is a start of that process and getting this work together with you all. I also want you to be aware that your group will be the same group that you'll be in tomorrow as well. So you'll be working together for today and tomorrow. I'll give you just a couple more minutes to still take note of those questions. Okay. We ready to go into our respective groups? My co-hosts will making sure that they get those breakout rooms together. So just bear with us for that. There she is. It says she sent it. Please accept. It seems there are a lot who have not gotten the invite just yet. So yes, if we can ask if you just be patient, if you went into the breakout room, please stay there. And we're adding the rest of the people into your breakout rooms. Just be patient with us, just a few more minutes. We're getting everybody. Some of the breakout rooms do not say the interpreter. We don't have anything for interpreters on the list for the breakout charts. I need to know where. I'm just putting them in group 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those specific people need the interpreters. Okay, I get what you're saying. Okay, so I just assign anyone to the interpreters. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it was named in. Still trying to get everybody in the breakout rooms. Trying to see who else. I think Deborah, you might be stuck. I might have to go ahead and put you in a different group. I'll just put you in 8. Angela Sanchez, I believe, is still in our room. It needs to be. If they've not accepted or joined. Can you see me? What I do see, who is not in a group on my list, it says Brian Sobek. Is he a participant? No. He stays with us. Okay, that's what I thought too. AJ, Trish, Elaine, Sonia, Ejani, myself, Tammy. And that's all. Everyone is assigned, but a lot did not join or accept. So you need to click that you're accepting the invite and joining that breakout room. Yeah, the name that is not familiar here is Angela Sanchez and V Don V97. Maybe they have, because see now in the main group, we only have the screens of those who are here. So maybe those who are still here, they haven't accepted it. Okay, that's fine. It's not like we have anything private to share here. Okay, so this is the main group. If you want to put your video on, that's fine too. Right, they said they may not have come back from their break yet, so they may have to click to join into the breakout room when they come back. So since we're here together, I would just like some of your feedback, how you guys feel like it's going. Obviously, the breakout rooms are a little bit of a struggle, but I expect that tomorrow should be better. Do we have the same groups tomorrow? Donna's saying, I think I need to figure out this from the screenshot. You want to keep the same groups, right? Yes, if at all possible, yes. Okay, so what happens, AJ had put it in to the groups, but it's not always reliable. It's like half of each group really did get in, but then the other half didn't. So tomorrow, I'm not sure, we'll try it again. Yeah, and I can share with them that if they happen to be in a group that they weren't in today for tomorrow, then they can just introduce themselves. I don't think we should fret over that. But how do you guys feel about how things are going so far? Donna says, I think it's going well. Sonia says, good. Any feedback? The Spanish translation at first was bad, but AJ figured it out with the headphones and now it's clear. Okay. So thank you, AJ. Yeah, I was trying to mic it and with the headphones, but I'm thinking to prevent the translation lag time, we may need to have a trilingual interpreter the next time we do this. Okay. Any feedback related to presenters, Melissa, or you feel everything went wonderful? I think she did really well. Okay. I think it was a good opening, a good start. Any feedback for me? Yeah, I know it was heart-wrenching, but do you feel, I mean, hopefully it's been going all right? Okay. Signs clear, going too fast. One thing that came up, somebody said, somebody mentioned the interpreter's elbow was out of the frame, and Tammy, you need to do the same with the elbow. So we'll try that. Is this better? Okay. Cart services look good as well. I think that's been going well. One thing we'll have to figure out is play with the sound when sharing video. For tomorrow and Daryl's, you'll have to click when sharing. I think only the host can do it. I'm a co-host. So we may have to test that out again tomorrow. That's right, because Daryl is voicing for himself. Okay, yeah, I forgot about that. Elaine?
Yeah, whoever shares Daryl's video tomorrow, whoever's doing the screen share, and I think Sonia said she is, she'll just, and Sonia knows this, but you have to click share screen with sound, and then it will play the video sound as
Yeah.
well.
I didn't see that on my end, Donna saying, But yeah, Sonia was able, she knows more about it. And then you didn't have the volume turned on, maybe on your laptop? Maybe, I don't know. No, her
volume was on. I could hear.
yeah. I didn't see it as an option, so I don't know. Okay. Sounds good. I did a screenshot of all of the groups. So we'll try, AJ, I guess I'll send it to you. Try it again to enter those and hopefully it'll work tomorrow. Yeah. The one thing that I was like, oh, okay, just like Ejani said, when not everyone shows up, then, you know, some people drop out and come back in later, that kind of thing. You know, several people who had left and then came back, you know, I'm like, you've got to leave it on, you know. And that was my frustration there. Maybe it's a good idea to announce it, say it's better if you just, you know, since the video is not showing, it's fine if you stay here, step out of the room for your break and then come back in. Maybe you just want to let them know so that way they don't feel that they have to leave the room. I did notice that we may need to organize more for tomorrow. Sonia, AJ, and wait a minute, just a second, Donna. The three of you, in recording this is also going to be uploaded to Canvas for the keynote speakers, at least those two for sure, right? But now you can edit that, or if you want to put the whole thing on there, I don't care either way. It's fine for me. Let's just keep life simple. And Donna, if you can remember, I asked you to take a picture. Yeah, I already did. Okay. I was trying to get one of each and then take that snapshot each time. Okay, that's fine. And that way we have some pictures for our Lone Star article. I'll be typing that up this weekend and then sending it to Yvonne. Perfect. We may need to figure out who is the person that lets everyone into the session, into the Zoom session. That's me. Well, I noticed in the past, the system kind of goes haywire if too many people are adding people into the room. The system gets kind of confused. So it's best to just have one person to do that at the very beginning. Well, I would prefer someone else do that. Donna says I'd be willing to. So that way I can get going rather than still clicking to let people in. So if you notice that I was signing one-handed while I was clicking to enter people into the room. So yeah, Donna says I can do that easily. So I'll do that. Okay. Sounds good so far. It is a little interesting with no audience signing, you know, I feel like I'm in the studio signing to myself and being recorded. Same idea. But my expressions good, or was I having more of a flat affect? Good. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. It was a serious presentation, so I think you conveyed the appropriate tone for that. Okay. Thank you. Any feedback for Tammy and Jacques as well? Voicing going good? Sounds good, Sonia? Just the elbow, everything else is fine. Yeah, we noticed the elbow and then everyone, I don't see Jacques, you had to respond, but you can hear him, so that's all that's needed. Yeah. Yeah, really cute. And really today seems to be kind of going along in terms of time, doing pretty well. Oh, we have another person here.
Hey, sorry, there's an interpreter. Hey, Elaine, I was just fixing to email you. I'm in room 6 and we have someone who's deaf and we need an interpreter. Because there's not all of us sign.
Who's that person?
Kathy, I didn't catch the last name.
Kathy Wesson?
I'm not sure.
You
So
may
you
wanna-
need the interpreter added to the group
Yes, please.
to voice?
Two of us can sign for
We'll move her into
ourselves.
group 1. Actually, we're gonna move Kathy into group 1.
Okay,
An
so
inter-
is there only supposed to be about 2 or 3 people per group? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, you should have around 5 or 6.
Okay, because, yeah, that's fine. There'll only be 3 of us, but that's okay.
Carrie
Yes.
is in your group.
It's myself.
People waiting because Carrie is left. I don't know if Carrie is able to come back in.
Yeah, can y'all put me back in group 6?
It looks like I'm not able to, Donna saying.
Oh, no.
Let me try. I'm gonna try. What'd she say? Moving back into the group. Nope, it's not letting me. It's not an option. Oh, wow. Kathy is in group 1. Well, thanks you can stay here and chat with us, I guess.
I'm so sorry. Is there another cat? Because we have a Kathy that's in our group, but maybe y'all already moved her. Did y'all move her over to group 1?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. I'm so sorry.
Is it okay if I turn my camera off or you guys have more discussion? I just don't want y'all to see me eat my lunch. I think everything's all right for today. And then whenever everyone comes back, I mean, we'll just take a few minutes. I'm not sure if they'll take the whole hour, but we can give them an hour now I'm trying to remember, was it 3 o'clock that we sent everybody or shortly after 3 o'clock? The schedule says, yeah, the schedule says 3 to 4. But well, maybe like 3:10, 3:06, somewhere around there was the time we got them in. Okay, so we'll bring them back. Yeah, and I feel bad for Carrie though, sitting here for 40 minutes, but will it work if we ask her to leave the actual Sympo, join back in, and then I can assign her back into her group? Oh, Carrie, can you do that? Did you hear that? Okay, try that. Go ahead and leave the Symposium and then come back in. This is a new experience. Fingers crossed.
Hi, everyone. This is Brian. I have to leave in just a few minutes. My wife's car is ready to pick up from the auto shop. So I'll have to step out a little bit early today. That's okay with you.
Sure, no problem. Thank you.
Great, no problem. It was great. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
Sure thing. Okay.
Bye-bye.
This isn't Carrie. This is a different person, Olivia. She said she was alone. Olivia? She was alone. I'm okay. I had left for break. So did you just come back from break? No, we were in the group and we're done. Oh, you're finished already? Okay. We talked and had our discussion and we just kind of sat there for a minute. Okay, that's fine. So we decided to go ahead and have a break. Okay, oh wow, that was fast. Just go ahead and take a break and yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, thanks. Maybe they don't need an hour to discuss that. I think there are many groups that are small too. So some are not big enough. Carrie, was Carrie able to go back into that room? No, it doesn't seem like it's like, yeah, she can't join any group now, it seems like. She can join another group though. It wouldn't be group 6. Her name's not even showing up on the breakout list anyways. Room 6. She's already joined, but it's not permitting. It's not connected. She's in group 6 now, but it's not connected. I just got a message from Katie, interpreter. In her group, no one needs her. She says she has Spanish interpreter. Yeah, she says she has Spanish interpreter in there, but she said that the Spanish interpreter is not using her. I told her to come back to the main group. And someone just joined. Lynn Langill. So I'm wondering if some people were not on the registration list, got the link from their coworker or something like that. So I'm gonna go. Katie said only thing Spanish interpreter is not showing her video and wants Katie to sign for the Spanish user, but I think she can't. I said, well, then stay in the room then for now. Or then stay for now. But we're going to follow the requests. And so we do have that there were 2 Spanish requests in families, and notice that they had a hard time coming into. And then the professional said ASL/Spanish interpreting. So I'm wondering if she's doing that for a coworker or I have no idea. So she needed both ASL and Spanish. So that's why they're both in the same group. I'm going to turn off my camera so I can eat my lunch. Then I can close my mouth. Is your group done? Jessica? All set? Yeah, we didn't know if we needed to keep going, keep talking, or go ahead and come back. We'll bring everyone back, so it's fine. Probably in about 20 minutes, we'll bring everybody back into the large group. If you're finished in your group discussion, you can go ahead and take a break then. Okay. Yeah, there were only 3 of us. Oh, it's a real small group. Okay, I see. Yeah, we tried to get about 8 to 10 people in each group, but not everybody showed up today. So that's kind of how it is. Understand. Okay, so just go ahead and take a break for a little bit, and then at about 3:45, we'll get everybody back into the room. Okay. Okay, I'll go back and let them know and come back. Sure.
Hey, Trish.
Yes, Celine.
I'm wondering, with people finishing in their groups early, I wonder if we should bring them back into the big group a little earlier, because we may just lose them to the rest of the afternoon. Did you already say that?
Yeah, yeah. After a couple of people moved back into the main room, and I looked at the time, I told her about 3:45, another 15 minutes. But if more come in before then we'll go ahead and bring them back earlier. But 3:45 is another 15 minutes. You think that's too much time, or? Well, this is Donna. I can send out a message to everybody and say, if you finish, you're welcome back into the big main room. And then we will wrap up at 3:45 and get everybody back into the main room. Yeah, sounds good. They can take a break, do a bathroom break, whatever they need to do at that moment then. Let's take about a 10-minute break if you're back here in the main room. It's nice to see some faces. Looking around. You're welcome to take a 10-minute break if you'd like to for right now. We're going to give just a few more minutes so that then we'll get everybody back in. Hello there. You see all these faces from all over Texas in little bitty squares. Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. Real people, hello. Hey there. Some new faces, some old faces I see. Kat, did you dye your hair purple? Yes, I did. COVID decision. Unicorn hair. Not an interpreter. You can dye your hair pink. Just about 5 more minutes. About 5 more minutes, and then we'll start back. I see most already coming back to the main group. Okay.
Couple more minutes. Okay, I think everyone is back.
Ya están todos de regreso.
Okay, let me get this set up. Okay, is everybody back? All right. I know it seems that we had planned to have 8 to 10 people per group, and that's why we added an hour for the group sessions. But many of the groups were smaller than anticipated due to not all the participants being here today. So it looks like we will be able to wrap up a little bit earlier today, but we have a little bit of additional time to share some responses from the groups. I already have group 1 and group 8. Group 1 said they're here to learn new things pertaining to mental health and counseling, education, interpreting profession. And what they hope to benefit is additional knowledge and networking. That was group 1. And then group 8 said that they were all interested in learning about more resources, also networking, and realizing that the drastic influence of the pandemic on the deaf and deafblind and hard of hearing communities, and foreseeing an even greater need for mental health services. Yes, absolutely. If there's any other groups that have are there any other groups that have responses? Let me check. Okay, Randy had mentioned and said they're here to learn more, like most of us, but to see where the issues are, and if her office, which is the governor's office of committee with people with disabilities, if they can help in some type of way. That's great that we can have someone here who can see what we're talking about, especially tomorrow. We're going to go pretty deep tomorrow with the concerns that we have. Let me see. And other issues, talking about deaf people not admitting that they need help. Yes, of course. I mean, as any other person may struggle with that. And then how do we deal with that? You know, with people who are not admitting that they need help? That's a good question. Someone says they would like to see a reduced stigma, more outpatient services, keeping the kids out of the hospitals. They also want to learn more about how to meet the needs of individuals with whoever they're working with, deaf blind population, hard of hearing themselves, and they're losing their vision. That's Debbie Germati. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Also, Cynthia, ADA counselor, Northeast Houston Community College. She does private practice on the side. She's here to learn more about mental health care for the deaf and networking opportunities as well. There's no residential treatment center here in Texas. There's only 2, but they're out of state. TEA, Texas Educational Agency, and they don't have it on their list of approved services for payment. And the interpreter got lost with the change of screens. One moment. Okay, and there's a lot more comments. One participant shared if VR is not willing to pay for mental health services. Deaf customers refusing to accept. We need to find out why deaf clients are not willing to receive services. Maybe they need to think about how they talk about mental health services and how it can be more of a positive conversation. There is a negative stigma for some people. Group 7 said they're talking about some deaf clients not wanting therapy through interpreters, right? Many people don't want that. Not enough signed therapy, some denial of services, some not needing services, different communities and cultures not trusting therapy in of itself, needing more information about mental health to customers. For example, depression does not mean you're sad all the time. Things such as that. VR Services focuses more on offering mental health services to their customers. That's great to hear. I have Lindsay Walker. She's a police officer in Plano, Texas. She is currently back in school to hopefully become an interpreter. Also, a mental health officer herself. Awesome. Wonderful that you're here. I'm here to learn anything and everything I can. I also teach crisis intervention training to officers and recruit and interact with the deaf and hard of hearing drivers to service them. Okay. We've noticed an increase of students with aggression and self-harm, hurting staff. They need more school training for how to handle those particular situations. Group 5, and additional resources information talking about an increase of networking to assure continued services for students who are deaf and hard of hearing and deaf blind. Let's see what else is there. Someone else had said they want to do what she can to help the deaf community on the policing side of things. They rarely have to call the police. Let's see. One suggestion was a summer camp for children with trauma for the deaf and hard of hearing and deaf blind. That'd be great to have. Summer can be a long break, so it can be hard for those young students in particular. Group 10 had mentioned we are all here to learn more about mental health, and this group has a middle school counselor at RDSPD, Regional Day School Program for the Deaf, a deaf blind specialist, community college coordinator, and also HHSC vision services are provided for the deaf blind students, and ASL. So there's a variety of people there. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of wonderful comments. It sounds like many of us are all on the same page across Texas. We see a lot of missed resources. The theme here is that many people are not willing to admit that they have mental health problems, or they're not willing to participate because of the direct communication being missing. Using an interpreter, that's not really preferred, and many people are like that. But at the same time, the youth in particular, if we can catch them and provide services for the youth, maybe they would not be in that position later on in life as an adult. So that's something that we can look at too, starting from an earlier age and going forward, and hopefully we can prevent them going into mental health services, or be more willing to get mental health services as an adult. Okay, those are good responses. I think those were good discussions. Tomorrow, our breakout sessions, our goal is to make the same groups, but it really depends on who shows up. And so it might not be the same group. And so if that happens, we may need to do a brief introduction and then proceed from there. The 2 questions for tomorrow is very deep. It's going to provide some in-depth discussion, and hopefully that will give us some ideas, with some other people here as well, some ideas of what we need to look at as the state of Texas. Okay, so before we wrap this up for today, I want you guys to know that we have 2 wonderful videos. Really, they're pre-recorded. videos that we did before this event because of the time constraints. So there's 2 videos. Those videos are on Canvas. And so you've already received an invite to Canvas, to a Canvas course from Region 13 ESC. And so if you guys have already gotten that, then go ahead and access it, go through it, and look into the chat as well. You can read the instructions there. The presentation talks about 2 things. One, Malibu Barron is a presenter, and she'll talk about trauma from parents and education in particular. And we also have 2 co-presenters, Cynthia de los Santos and also Laisha Campbell. Those are 2 ladies from Houston, and they will talk about informed trauma services in general. So they're both really good presentations. I really appreciate the 3 of them for making those presentations for us. So please take your time to access those videos, watch them. They are required to view if you want to get your CEUs. So it is important to go through them, okay? And let's see what else. Okay. I think that pretty much wraps it up. We're a little bit early today. Tomorrow is going to be a packed day in the afternoon, but we'll kind of see how it goes. I hope that everything is good for you all. And, the planning committee and I wish you well in the evening. And we'll see you guys tomorrow at 1 o'clock sharp. And I'll stay here for a little while. I'll type up some things in the chat if you'd like. But other than that, I will see you all tomorrow. All right, great job. Thank you. Thank you, interpreters. Welcome. See y'all tomorrow.
Let me see here. Yes, Carrie. So I got a question. On Canvas, it says it will post after watching the video. A question to answer, how soon is that going to be coming up? Because I don't see it. Have you already watched the video? I started to watch the video before we started at 1 o'clock, which is fine, that's fine. But whenever we're done watching it, is there, to answer that, we don't have any questions for that, except for an evaluation for the presenter. Where's the evaluation? That's gonna be posted tomorrow afternoon. So both will be posted tomorrow afternoon? Yeah. The evaluations will be there, like, there's gonna be a link for each one that you can go ahead and fill out an evaluation for each one. Okay, so we don't have to answer any questions? No. No. Okay, great. I thought we had to answer some questions. No. I think that, it's important to watch it. I think that we can all be honest though, and of course, watch that and then answer the evaluations. Gotcha, right? Yeah. I wanted to watch them and then go ahead and answer the questions because tomorrow I'm gonna forget everything. Make some notes. I don't have the same notes. You see the group, how my notes are real simple to the point. Okay, Carrie. All right, bye-bye. Okay, Elaine. Oh, hey, Randy. I did see that you were struggling. So Elaine Young, you're here, right? Can you turn on your video for us, Elaine? Elaine.
I'm trying. I can't get anything to open. There's my microphone finally.
Okay, well, if you can hear that.
There we go. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's perfect. No, Randy is struggling to find Canvas. So if you guys could help her. I found Canvas, but I don't know where to log in. I mean, I've already registered, but I don't know where to find the courses.
You should have a launch button, Randy, on the right-hand side when you log in to the Mental Health Symposium. There on the right side of the screen should be a little button that says launch.
Where on the right side?
Can you share your screen with us? Oh, someone at Statewide Outreach says, are you using Safari or Chrome?
Chrome.
Well, did you see in the chat to contact online learning at ESC 13? Okay,
Yeah.
they're the ones that can definitely help you. I'm an education specialist, not a technology specialist. So all I know is you should see that launch button on the right-hand side of your screen. And if you're not, then contact online learning. Let me put it in the chat again. They'll
Is it in Zoom?
help you for sure.
Do you have to see it in Zoom?
No, it's not in Zoom. It's completely separate from Zoom. It will be in your Region 13 eCampus account.
That's where I'm at right now.
That's where you are right now. Okay. And so are you clicked on to the Mental Health Symposium there?
No.
Okay, in the email you got from them, you should be able to, now I'm thinking, you should launch right from the email they sent you. It should open up the symposium in Canvas.
I've got from TSBVI.
No, from Region 13. There's an email, check your junk box. It will say Region 13 ESC will be who it's from.
Okay. I have an invitation that I already registered, and that's the only one that I have.
So the registration should have come from TSBVI. The Canvas link would have come from Region 13 ESC.
Okay. It's on Get Started. It looks like it's going to connect to the courses. Thank you for clarifying that and helping me out.
Good, good. Sorry it took me so long to help you.
No, that's all right. No problem. Okay, so working now? Is it working now? Trisha's asking.
I think she got it to work. Mhm.
Yeah, I think I'm there right now. Thank you. Sure.
She's done all right. I would not have recognized her.
Yeah, I know.
Very days on temple.
Oops.
Okay, so our team, if we could meet for just a few minutes, say about 12:45, meet early tomorrow, or do we need more time for that to meet tomorrow? Sorry about that. No, I was just asking about what time tomorrow. 12:45 good, or should we meet earlier than that? Which do you prefer? I think 12:45 is fine. I'll email AJ the screenshots of the breakout groups, and then I think we're pretty good for 12:45. Okay, I want you to know one person sent a direct message to me asking for the possibility of network sharing. So what I was going to do, what does that mean? So that the people in the conference, they want each other's emails, contact information so that they can network with each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask them to voluntarily put in their information in the chat. And then when we're done at the end, I can get a copy of the chat. And then that way I'll get that together for those who are willing to have their contact sent out and go through the registration. I would suggest, because with chat, you're going to have quite a bit of comments in there. That's twice the work for you. So what should I do? I would suggest either your email or my email, open up a Google Doc and set it to public, put the link in the chat and tell people that if they are willing, they can put in their contact information in that Google sheet on their own, or that document. And then that way you can end up just sending it out. You know, and then that way it eliminates all the other chat comments. Can you set that up? Yeah, I can do that. I'm fine to do that. Do you want me to, have you send it to you and then you can do it? Yeah. And then that way I'll announce to them that if they want to, they can put their information there and then you'll have a link. Yeah, I can type it in as customer service too. Yeah. And then that way it'll be in the chat and then they can go ahead and go through that and give their information as the afternoon goes on. Any other things that we need to know about, or do you feel we're good? I think so. Checking in with Spanish interpreters, they are fine, comfortable. Bobby asked me to join in the Spanish group for tomorrow to just get an idea of how it's going, because we would like to learn more about how we can serve the Spanish community. So I'll be joining in there tomorrow. Okay, sounds good. But other than that, it seems like everything's gone good, right, Sonia, with Spanish interpreter and everything? Yeah. I think clearly I've heard all of it through the Spanish interpreter. I heard it and it was pretty clear. Okay. All right. We'll see you all at 12:45 tomorrow. Great work, everyone. Have a good evening, everyone.